LouieTeeNetwork.
Welcome all my fellow Washington brethren and sister. I am your man and resident Washington football team fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on the Washington Football Report. And this is a special Washington Football Report because it's the beginning of a new series that I'm going to start over the next month or so, that I'm going to go through all the positions on this roster in the league. We're going to go through 9 different positions: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, cornerback, safety. Now, we're going to go through Washington's rank within the division and then what I think their rank is overall in the league at every single position. Don't ask me why I decided to start at the running back position, but that's where we're going to start today. And that's going to be the first position we take a look at. And I'm really intrigued by the running back position this year. Obviously, we think we're going to keep 3 backs. There are 4 guys that we think are, or at least I do, could be potentially worthy of a spot. Now, again, a lot of you are excited about the undrafted rookie Jarrett Patterson and what he can bring to the table, as am I. However, we still need to see it. We still need to see him in action to know that he is worthy of a roster spot. If we're just going off of what he did at Buffalo, it looks good, but how many guys have we seen play really well at the collegiate ranks, get into the NFL, and they're not as effective? So I would love to see it first before we start ranting and raving about what this guy can contribute to this roster. That said, even if he's not in the equation and we go with the 3 backs that were here last year, which is what I'm going off of, I'm assuming that they're going to keep the same 3 backs. I know a lot of you think Jarrett Patterson is going to be on this football team, and he very well may be. However, I'm going off of the 3 guys that we had a season ago, and Patterson may factor into this equation eventually. I think he's going to be here whether he makes the team or he doesn't. I don't see him ending up elsewhere. I think he's going to be on this football team, whether in on a practice squad capacity or on the roster overall. So, or in a practice squad capacity or on the roster overall. So we'll see what happens, but I want to first start with where this running back group ranks in the division. So obviously 4 teams in the division. Where does Washington rank in this division? I think running back wise. So when I talk about positional groups, I'm talking about the group as a whole, taking into account every single player that we think has a chance to be on this roster or is going to make this football team versus the other players that we think are going to make the team at that specific position on the other teams in the division and around the league. So we start in the division, and honestly, if I'm keeping it a buck, and that's what I do at all times with you guys, I think we are dead last in the division at the running back position as an overall group. And here's why. Let's take a look at why I feel the way that I do. So when you look at Washington, we know the running backs. We know what this room looks like. It's Antonio Gibson going into year 2. Really high hopes for him. There's running back J.D. Mckissick. Really love what he brought to the table as a receiving threat. Also a guy you can hand it to and him be a change of pace. And then there is our hammer, okay? A guy that we didn't expect a lot from, but he carved out a niche for himself on this football team in Peyton Barber. A lot of you want to upgrade over him to Jarrett Patterson. We'll see if the coaching staff agrees with you or not. So let's start in Dallas, where honestly, there's not a lot here, but the substance of what is there is greater than the substance of what we have here in Washington. So the way I look at it is, if 2 out of your 3 backs are better than 2 out of our 3 backs, then you win the battle. And essentially, if you're going toe-to-toe, mano-a-mano, Ezekiel Elliott, Antonio Gibson, well, Elliott wins that battle, okay? So our number 1 against their number 1 is better. Their number 2 is Tony Pollard. Our number 2 is J.D. Mckissick. While I love Mckissick, I think Tony Pollard has a higher upside. I think he can be an overall better back in this league and has already proven that he's pretty damn good when given the opportunity. We saw a lot of that last year when Ezekiel Elliott was out of the lineup. So for me, I give the nod to Tony Pollard. So they've already got 2 out of the 3 Now, Rico Dowdle is a guy that I really like coming out of South Carolina in the draft last year. I would take Peyton Barber over him right now, but if you continue to give Rico Dowdle opportunities, I think he's probably better than Peyton Barber as well. But I'll give the nod because Barber has already carved out a niche for himself in this league. So out of the three backs that we expect to make the team for the Cowboys, and they may have another one of those guys, I don't care about those other ones. Just those three guys alone, we only have the nod in one spot, and it's the most insignificant of the three spots, and that's our third running back spot, RB3, if you will. So I give the nod to the Cowboys there. They're a better group positionally at running back than we are. You go to the next team, and that's the Giants. Okay, again, more players here, lot of players here, but don't lose focus of what's important. Their number one guy is Saquon Barkley. Okay, our number one guy is Antonio Gibson. You take Saquon Barkley over Antonio Gibson. Sorry, not sorry. So they get the nod there. Here's where things get interesting. I think J.D. Mckissick is better than any third down back or any guy that they may have trying to catch the football out of the backfield. And they got some guys that can catch it. Corey Clement can catch the football. Remember what he did for the Eagles in the Super Bowl versus the Patriots. Gary Brightwell is a guy that they just drafted out of Arizona who I actually like a lot more than other people do. I think he can catch it out of the backfield. And I was a really big fan of Taquan Mizell coming out of UVA. That said, I think J.D. McKissick is better than all three of those guys. So the real question then becomes Devontae Booker, who's their number two back. So if you really go 2 for 2, it's J.D. McKissick versus Devontae Booker. But they're two different types of backs, okay? Booker, for me, is more in the mold of a Peyton Barber. And he's a much better Peyton Barber. Okay, much better Peyton Barber. So, for me, they've got the nod in 2 out of 3 places. So, the Giants get the nod. And their number one is better than our number one. And really, that's what you're really focusing on is your number one versus their number one. And then the other parts start to come into play if there's, a tie or it's really close. That's when you start looking at your 2 and your third back, and then you look at the group as a whole. They've got us 2 out of 3 with Barkley and Booker, and so I think J.D. McKissick is the only win for us there. And again, Jarrett Patterson may come into the fold, and he may ultimately be better than Devontae Booker. Who's to say? But we don't know that for a fact. There is actual proof of Devontae Booker getting it done at a high enough level as a second back in this league to know that that's a good pickup for the Giants. So I give the Giants the nod over us at this current juncture as well. And then you look at the Eagles. Look at this depth. Now, obviously, all of these guys aren't making the football team, but unlike the Giants and unlike Washington and probably Dallas as well, where you might see a team with only 3 running backs, maybe 4, the Eagles could keep 5 guys at the running back position. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know their roster intimately enough to say what they are or aren't going to do. But there's legitimately 5 guys that I would look at and say I'd be interested in keeping if these guys pan out. However, let's just go with the premise that they keep 4. They're going to keep 4 of these guys. There's too many here to cut all of them and trim it down to 3. They're going to keep 4 of these guys. So we've seen what Boston Scott can be. He's a miniature, and it's crazy to say this, but he's a miniature version of Darren Sproles. Not as explosive, but he can be dynamic. We've seen what Boston Scott can be in this league. Miles Sanders, that's their number one back. And when you look at their number one versus our number one in Antonio Gibson, it's very close. You're splitting hairs. I would probably take Antonio Gibson over Miles Sanders, but I can tell you this much. When Miles Sanders is healthy, he's a really good back. One of the better, more underrated running backs in the league. So it's tough. When you look at his 2019 rookie season and you look at what he did, over 800 yards rushing and another 500 receiving, that's the kind of diversity that we're looking for out of Antonio Gibson. So I just like the fact that Gibson's, 220. I think he's going to lose some weight this offseason and be in a little bit better shape than the 230 he was at last year, 225, something like that. I just like the fact that he's a bigger back, can stand the workload. Miles Sanders has not shown the ability to stay healthy early in his career to this point. We'll see. It's a small sample size. That might have been just one-off year where he just was banged up, and we'll see what happens. But they're really close, okay? So now you start looking at some of the ancillary parts to really give you the tiebreaker. So we go to their second back. So we've got J.D. McKissick. They've got some guys here that are unproven, like a Kenneth Gainwell, who they drafted this year out of Memphis. Remember, he was the teammate of Antonio Gibson at Memphis, who's really good. Kenneth Gainwell is really good, and he can catch it out of the backfield as well. They've also got Carrion Johnson, a guy that we liked in that, I liked in that 2019 NFL draft and thought that they should go after, or was it the 18 draft? I think it was the 18 draft when they took Darius Geis. And I wanted Johnson. The Lions traded up and got Carrion Johnson, which prompted us to trade back, and we ended up taking Darius Geis, and the rest is history. Carrion Johnson has not shown the ability to stay healthy, but when he's healthy, he's better than Peyton Barber. And I don't think he's better than J.D. McKissick, but they're not the same type of back. Carrion Johnson is more of a Peyton Barber type of back, and he's better than Peyton Barber when he's healthy. The problem is he's never healthy. They've got Adrian Killins Jr., who they view as their version of Jarrett Patterson, except Killins is like a 4.2-something guy. He's a blazer. He can fly out of UCF, out of Central Florida. So they've got a bunch of stuff. And then they've got a couple of veterans, Jordan Howard, hanging around. He may be on their roster. And look at the ages here. They're all young. None of these guys are 28, 29. None of these guys are pushing. Some of you want to throw in, Lamar Miller. Lamar Miller's 30 years old. He's not in this equation at all. So just looking at the full body of what the Eagles can put at you and throw at you, I don't know how many of these guys they're going to keep, but this is a hell of a room. Honestly speaking, Adrian Killins may not even make the roster, and the guy can flat out fly. He's a game changer if you just get the ball in his hands. Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, Carrion Johnson, Jordan Howard, Kenneth Gainwell. That's the most depth of any team in this division. Now, their number one isn't better than Dallas's number one or the Giants' number one, but the depth of what they bring to the table is better than anybody else in the division. So the Eagles are better than us as well. So that's kind of how I view the division, is that we're last. And remember, we were last before we drafted Antonio Gibson. He's only played for a season. This could change. Next year, we could be having this same conversation, and it could be a different outcome. Because when we drafted Gibson, we were the only team in the division not to have a back. Miles Sanders was coming off a fantastic rookie season. We know what Ezekiel Elliott has been in this league, and we knew, and Saquon Barkley had been a stud the first 2 years of his career. So we already knew what, or I should say, he had been a stud in his rookie season going into his second year. So we were the only team that didn't have one of these stud backs. Now we do think we have one. We've got to prove it. We've got to see him prove it. Antonio Gibson has to prove it. And I just think the depth of the room is solid in Washington, but it's not overwhelming. It's not knock your socks off. That's why a lot of you want Peyton Barber gone, because you want to upgrade the back end of that running back room and say, hey, I don't want a guy just good in short yardage. I want a guy that can do more than short yardage. I hear you loud and clear, but I like guys that I know exactly what I'm getting from them, and a guy that can carve out a niche for himself, and Peyton Barber has already done that. But again, I'm not against, I am not against Jarrett Patterson beating out Peyton Barber and taking that last running back spot if we elect to only keep 3 backs on this roster, because I like you, would like to get more out of the running back group as well. But I also like a sure thing. So again, I've said this to you guys before. I'll say it again. Don't quit your job until you have another one. Don't get rid of Peyton Barber unless you got somebody that you know can pick up the 3rd and the 4th in shorts, because we know Barber can do that. Now, as far as where Washington, so they're 4th in the division. They're dead last in the division in the running back room. As far as the league is concerned, I've got Washington 15th in the league. So right around the middle of the pack at the running back position. I'll give you the teams that rank higher than Washington in the league. And then there were some teams that were very close that you could easily make the argument that their running back room is superior to that of Washington. I personally think that Washington is better than those teams, and I'll give you those teams as well. Let's give you the teams first that rank higher than Washington, and you can make your own judgment as to whether you think those teams deserve to be higher than Washington's running back group or not. So, the Carolina Panthers, just off of the strength of Christian McCaffrey and a guy that they just drafted this year in Hubert Chuba Hubbard, Chuba Hubbard. Between those two, all right, their room is better than ours. They don't have really anything else there, but Christian McCaffrey and Chuba Hubbard. Enough said. Chicago Bears. I just think the depth of their room is better than ours. I love David Montgomery. They also have Tariq Cohen. And if I'm not mistaken, they got another back that they added in there. They've got enough depth. They've got enough stuff there in Chicago. I think they have a better running back room than ours. The Cleveland Browns, I don't need to discuss that with you guys. Between Hunt and Chubb, enough said. Dallas, we've already gone through that. The Green Bay Packers have a really good stable of running backs. Obviously, Aaron Jones is better than anything we have in our backfield. And then they got A.J. Dillon, who's a man beast coming up in the game, going into his second season. He looks the part. And then they got other stuff there, too. I think there's one more back that I really am intrigued by. So they've got the upper hand on us as well. Indianapolis Colts, that's another team I really don't need to go into great detail as to them. They've got a second-year running back in Jonathan Taylor that rushed for over 1,100 yards last year, averaged 5.5 per carry, I think it was, in his rookie campaign. So that alone puts them ahead of us. But then you add in Nyheim Hines, who's one of my favorite running backs in the league. And, oh, by the way, they got Jordan Wilkins, who I think is a really solid back. He's really comparable to Peyton Barber. And then, oh, by the way, they got Marlon Mack back, okay? So they're loaded. I don't need to really go into detail about Indianapolis. Jacksonville, they had a hell of a rookie season from an undrafted rookie last year. I forget his name. It escapes me right now at this very moment. But he was phenomenal for them last year. And I think he went over 1,000 yards. Then they just drafted Travis Etienne as well. And they've got other guys that I really like in that backfield. So I think the Jaguars have a superior backfield to ours. The Raiders, same thing. They got Josh Jacobs. They just got Kenyon Drake in free agency. They got a bunch of stuff out there. Theo Riddick as a pass-catching back. They're loaded. So the Vikings, Dalvin Cook. Need I say more, but I really like Alexander Madison as well as his backup. So they've got stuff in Minnesota. They're better than us. The New Orleans Saints, again, another elite back, just like Minnesota with Dalvin Cook, or Green Bay with Aaron Jones, another elite back to head that group. And so with Kamara there, and then they got other stuff that's just complimentary of Kamara, but they've got quality backs in that backfield. I take the Saints group over ours. I talked about the Giants already. I talked about the Eagles already. The Steelers, with the drafting of Najee Harris to go along with the former Kentucky back. I can't think of his name right now. Man, if he can stop fumbling the damn ball, he's actually really solid. So they got the Kentucky back. They got McFarland out of Maryland. They got Najee Harris. They got a bunch of stuff in Pittsburgh, man. A lot of quality backs back there. I put the Steelers ahead of us. And then the Titans. Derrick Henry. I don't need to say anything else. Period. The man rushed for 2,000 yards last year. So, and then they've got some guys backing him up that I think have a chance to be really good in this league as well. So the Tennessee Titans are the final team that I believe is ahead of Washington. And then we come in at 15 in the league. Some teams that I thought were close. Baltimore, I thought with their stable of backs, but I just don't think any of their guys are better than Antonio Gibson. So I think they've got a lot. I love Gus Edwards. He's better than Peyton Barber, but I don't think they have a guy that matches J.D. McKissick. So I'll take my guy, Antonio Gibson, and McKissick over their backfield. Buffalo, same thing. They got a bunch of guys that I like, but I don't think any of their guys are better than Antonio Gibson. And I don't think any of their backs out of the backfield are better than J.D. McKissick catching the football and being a diverse back in that regard. So I take our guys over Buffalo. Denver, they got Melvin Good in the third, but that's about it. They got some other guys back there. None of them really knocked my socks off, but I thought they had a good stable of backs, but none of them I think are better than Antonio Gibson, and I think McKissick puts us over the top there. Lions, it was really close because they drafted DeAndre Swift last year. He looks the part. They drafted another guy that I really liked out of Oregon State this year in the 6th or 7th round. And they got another back there that I think is really quality that they signed from Green Bay in Williams. I was really close to giving Detroit the nod, But when it's all said and done, I still like Antonio Gibson better than any of their backs. So I'll go with our guys. And then even if you think Gibson and Swift are right there neck and neck, I think J.D. Mckissick is better than any of their other backs. So it gives us the nod there. Another team that I thought was close was the Texans. They just got too many old backs. You know, even though they got some stuff there, Phillip Lindsay is a guy that I really like. He's the youngest of all the backs they got. They got a bunch of stuff, but all of their backs are pushing 30. I can't put them over our guys. The Chargers was really close. Austin Eckler showed that he could be more than just a third down back last year when having to carry the load. Also, they got a young guy that they drafted out of UCLA that's a big physical guy. He looks a lot like Antonio Gibson, but he's not Gibson. I think Gibby's better than him, but he's a big physical guy that's right around 230 pounds as well. And they also got Justin Jackson, so another guy that I like. So they got a well-rounded backfield. I like what they have. I just don't like it better than what we have. The Patriots, they have a nice stable of backs. Again, most of them are older. Sony Michel can't stay healthy, so I can't put them ahead of us. But they've got a nice little stable of backs as well. And then the Buccaneers, really intriguing. Ronald Jones. And really, the debate is, do you like Ronald Jones better than you like Antonio Gibson? For me, the answer is no. I'll take Gibby over Ronald Jones. And, you know, Leonard Fournette, it's really just playoff Lenny. He's not all that great in the regular season, it seems. I don't really have a big crush on Leonard Fournette's game, so he doesn't move the needle for me. They drafted, you know, a bunch of guys. Keyshawn Vaughn, you know, he fumbled last year in the playoffs against us. They benched him. We didn't see him again in the postseason. He might actually be a quality back. They went out and got Giovanni Bernard. And that makes it interesting because Giovanni Bernard matches up very well with J.D. Mckissick, but Giovanni Bernard's a lot further along in his career than I think J.D. Mckissick is. So I'll give the nod to J.D. Mckissick right now. So for me, we're above the Buccaneers as well, but it was very close. So that's where I see this group at. It's a middle of the pack group right now. I've been talking to fans, and there are lofty expectations for this room, especially Antonio Gibson in his second season, now that he's more comfortable with the running back position. Remember, Gibson was just acclimating himself to the running back position last year, learning the tricks of the trade and figuring out, you know, how to get certain things down, whereas this year he can just focus on being a pure running back. More of a attention to details type of guy. And that may push him over the top to be a 1,300 yard rusher with about 300 or 400 yards receiving to add to that mix. And if that's the case, if we find out that that is who Antonio Gibson truly is, then I think it catapults us way up this list, especially if J.D. Mckissick continues to do what he did for us last year. He won't get as many catches. Not with Ryan Fitzpatrick and Taylor Heineke potentially in there pushing the football down the field. Without Alex Smith checking it down every other play, he's not going to get as many catches. And so I don't know how effective J.D. Mckissick is going to be or how gaudy his numbers are going to be. He may still be ultra effective in his touches. He may not have as many, however. But the real question will be, you know, what they do at that third running back spot if they only elect to keep three. Will it be Barber and his ability to convert on third and fourth and shorts? Or will it be Jarrett Patterson and his ability to do a little bit more on the offensive side of the football? We will see. But that's my running back positional rankings. We will do this for every single position that I stated already. All 9 of the positions, we will go through them with a fine-tooth comb, rank them in the NFC East, rank them overall in the league. Leave your comments down in the comments section of this video. I would love to hear what you think, how you disagree with me vehemently about our division ranking or overall ranking in the league. Leave it down in the comments section. Can't wait to read all of those comments. And also, I am a Washington fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to our beloved Washington football team. If you are not a member of the Mob Squad, stand up. We in the building. You need to go ahead and get on that. The link is in the description of this video on how to become a member of the Mob Squad. And if you are a member of the Mob Squad, make sure you're getting that merch. I'll drop this video on the way out. Enjoy. Have a good one. Like this video. Subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. And leave a comment. I want to know how you feel about these rankings that I have laid upon you on your doorstep for this running back group. Till next time, you guys, take care. Have a good one.